The successful restaurants, the successful bars, they go and educate themselves. They go find those resources for themselves. You see them at the trade shows. You see them wanting to learn. You see them attending the seminars. You at least see the attempt to keep moving forward, right?
Hello and welcome to the Bar Business Podcast, where we help bar owners increase profits, attract loyal guests, and simplify operations so you can avoid burnout and finally enjoy your life outside of your bar. I'm your host, Chris Schneider, the Bar Business Coach. The Bar Business Podcast is brought to you by QuickSpec. And full disclosure, I'm a co-founder. We built QuickSpec to give you back your time and help you work smarter, not harder. QuickSpec connects your POS data, layers in real-world context, and gives you actionable forecasts and KPI dashboards that allow you to make data-driven decisions so you can spend less time guessing and more time on what matters. Staff smarter, order better. Stop planning for rushes that never show up or getting caught off guard by the ones that do. When you make decisions based upon real data, not guesswork, you get your time back and your team runs smoothly. Check it out at quickspec.com. That's QUIXSPEC.com. And make sure to sign up for our early access program on the homepage. Today on the Bar Business Podcast, we are joined by two fantastic guests who are hosts of the Late Night Restaurant Podcast, Jay Ashton and Domenic Pedulla. They are going to tell us all about different things. We're probably going to get into a bunch of different subjects. But Jay, Dom, thank you so much for being here. I know that was a terrible introduction. So tell us a little bit about yourselves.
My name is Domenic. I'm with the Next Food Expo and also Safe Check Learning Canadian Food Safety Group. So we founded the Next Food Expo in Calgary. Last year was our first year. We're going again this year, September 13th and 14th. And it's a business-to-business trade show for food service and hospitality. And then on the Safe Check training side, we offer Canada's #1 food handler course, as well as other learning. For a couple of years, I've been doing late night restaurant show and other stuff with Jay Ashton. That's been a blast. Jay, it's your turn.
My turn. Okay.
Your turn. Yeah. Listen up, man.
Yeah, sir, I am listening.
Apparently not.
I'll get an email later. I've been in the industry. This is my 35th year in the industry. I've started at the Dirty Bird KFC when I was a kid, and then worked my way up in the industry. I've worked with Cisco for over 22 years, coming up 22 years. Been the resource guy there for 20 years, provided all the resources and everything else that we provide as value. I was a big part of that, and created this podcast with Dom 3.5 years ago, Dom. Our anniversary's coming up, I think. We expect something. So it's been a hoot. And you know what? We write articles. We've created Ashton Media that's got newsletters. We really trying to reinvent the media space and provide people with solutions. Bottom line, we just love talking about the industry and helping people learn more about people and services and programs and food and everything in between. So that's what we do. And we've been shows everywhere. We've done shows everywhere, and yeah, we've done a lot of stuff together.
Well, that's awesome. And I'm
just spray tan each other, which would be weird.
Yeah, we're not, and that's not on the list.
It's on the list. We keep that one later.
On the list.
It's a late show.
I'm excited to have both of you on because, like you said, you've been around the industry. You've talked to a lot of people. You guys produce a lot of content. And one of the things that occurred to me, because very rarely do I ever have the opportunity to talk to anyone who's in this industry in Canada, is I think from the U.S. side, sometimes we think, okay, Canada's either not different at all or Canada's totally different than we are. Which one of those is true, or are neither of those true?
Or both.
Or both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or both.
I'd say we're closer than most people think we are. We're more alike than we are different, if that's okay to say. Culturally, you know, we both sort of were founded around the same time under similar circumstances, up until, 1776. We were the same place, right? We were under British rule, so till that point we were the same, and we both had French cultures in different places. So a lot of the things are the same, and along the border town, like 90% of Canada's population is within, I think it's 100 miles of the U.S. border. It's like we're really close. Yeah. I'm from Northern Ontario, so we affiliated a lot with Minnesota. Everything's similar. So I see it as more the same than different. Our politics are different, but there's a lot of people in Canada that want U.S. politics, and there's a lot of people in the U.S. that want Canadian politics, right? So it's like, I don't know why, but our government's whacked. They're nuts on taxes.
You
They're
said the
nuts
G
on,
word.
yeah. Well, it's just they're bad on a lot of things. So,
I was supposed to
and
say
that's
the G
hurting our
word. We
industry.
talked about
Actually,
that.
it
What is
is.
that, Doc?
So it's hurting the food service industry.
Hurting us big time. I think, you know what? I think from all the guests, we've had a lot of Americans on our show and stuff like this, and we love the States and we love what we're doing down there. We were, we were supposed to do this show in Chicago last year, and fortunately we had to step out of it just based on what was going on at the time. It kind of sucked. So if we look at the differences, I don't really see them much other than our money is probably the only thing I see that's different. And our milk. Our milk's different.
Okay, hold on a second. Your milk is different?
No, I think he's
Yeah.
wrong. Comes in different
No, our milk's
jugs.
not different.
Not
Different
really.
cows. We have different cows.
No.
Our cows are nicer.
What?
That I
You
believe.
just insulted all the American cows. What the hell?
Well, I didn't want to insult the American cows.
You
but
just did.
It's good this is a podcast for bar owners, not dairy farmers.
Exactly. So, well, there's a little milk. You buy a little milk for bars. But
Absolutely.
no, I would say that's about it. That our cows are nicer. And that's the only thing I would say.
On the
is
bar
different.
owner side, our liquor's way more expensive. We got an automatic
Stronger.
tax raise coming April 1st. They call it the escalator tax. That's absolutely ridiculous. It just kicks in every April. They just take a little piece more. Federal government. They're totally fucked. They're really bad.
Well,
Sorry.
I think regardless if you're in the US or Canada, when we're looking at government regulation, most of us are not being helped by that right now in this industry.
No. And I think the reality of that is for almost anything, when the government gets out of the way, industry figures most things out. Well, that's a free market economy, right? Is competition is good, innovation happens, but every time you put a roadblock in there, then it just slows everything down. It stifles everything, and it ends up hurting everybody, including the government, by the way, because they collect less tax. It's not as much to collect as people point spending.
Absolutely.
So when they get out of the way, especially in the hospitality industry, and they ease off on regulations and they make things a little more open, I'm not saying it should be a free for all, but I do say get out of the way. Industry knows what they're doing. They've been doing it for a long time, and every time they step in to try and grab another piece of it, they kill something.
It's very hard. It's very hard in Canada with the population that we have too. We don't have the population like you, so it does make it difficult when you look at the profitability and what we're driving within our restaurants. We don't have the big population, and we have an abundance of locations. We have a huge amount of restaurants,
and so that obviously would make between the government and then not having that many people in a lot of locations, that makes fighting for everything very difficult.
Absolutely.
And I feel like it's true in the US right now too, that between inflation and government changes and everything else, this industry is getting a lot harder than it used to be.
And getting easier.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where shows like yours, Chris, is there to help people and for people to talk things through sometimes and finding out, what is working, what's not working. I think that for me, one of the things why we started Next is I think the industry is underrepresented in their reach and what, like even in Canada, right, what the economic impact is of the food service and hospitality industry in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really big. It employs a lot of people. And actually generates a lot of taxes for government. I think as an industry, with the National Restaurant Association in the U.S., I think your voice is a little louder. Restaurant Canada does a good job, but I think collectively we're weaker up here in our voice.
We haven't got together as a group as much as maybe we should, or we have in certain segments of the industry. So like your franchises, yes, possibly, but your independents are very solo down here. Bringing them together is an opportunity in the Canadian market, right? Like, and we're starting to do that. And that's what Next does as well, is it brings that group, that community together under one roof for a few days out in Calgary. And That's something that I see as we move forward is I always say it's community. It's all about community. It's all about community moving forward as we lose, you know, the trust, I would say, in some aspects of the social world of media, you know, and getting into more of these activations or activities in the field with operators so they have a chance to work together and get to know, hear everyone and hear what they're going through. I think that's where we're headed as well.
Well, in a lot of ways, it seems like that's where we have to head, right? Because to your point, and it's true even down here, right? We may have some better large organizations, but it's still those large organizations are dominated by the chains. The independent guys, a lot of times, want to clash heads rather than work together, which has always
Yeah,
confused me a little bit.
it's the same here. It is. I think to Jay's point, we're starting to see people starting to understand that we need to collaborate more with each other. That as much as we're competitors in some things, we need to be friends and allies in almost everything else, right? Like especially when it's time to have your voice heard, because the divide and conquer, I think, is what government relies on, right? That I definitely up here they're about putting people in little boxes, and nobody collectively has any real big voice, so they're all small, but collectively they can probably do anything. So it's tough to see because so many people rely on the food service and hospitality industry for work, for their families, and it it is getting tougher. But at the same time, we see lots of success, people that are doing things differently, people that are changing how they've done them in the past. And that's always sort of the heartwarming part of what we do when we hear people come on our show, is that the origin stories are often the same, which is cool, right? They're always massive struggles, and they were one paycheck away, or their credit card was maxed out.
One piece
All
of it.
those stories are the same. It's crazy, and then they did something that made a difference. And I don't think we've ever had a guest on that was just purely driven by money. They're always driven by wanting to change stuff and helping somebody. So that's a cool part too.
And let me ask you about that because I've noticed the same thing. Most people in hospitality are not driven purely by money. And especially, I think, for the independent bars and restaurants, if you were purely driven by money, you would just not have a good time because you're not making much money,
Yeah.
right? You have to be driven by community, by helping people. But what do you think if you had to kind of look at that mindset and say, okay, this is what I see when people get it, and this is what I don't see when people don't get it? What do you think that factor is just beyond not terribly greedy?
Dom, take that one.
That's you. That's yours, Shay.
I was like, part two, we'll do this. You know, I think when you look at people that chase, first of all, I think the entry level for our industry has been so low that everyone came in here and thought it was a quick way to make some money. And 99% of the time, it's not. And I think they realize that, you know, right away. And then they start the challenge and then we're into trouble from that point on. You see that as a failure rate as well as you see the other ones that are chasing their dreams and they have a challenge as well. I see companies that get in here that don't do it for the right purpose tend to come and go. And that's okay. And I think you have to have some sort of sales mindset as well, like to have a business and a restaurant in this industry that doesn't make money. I would say I don't really care what you sell as long as you make money to feed that, you know, that income that you need,
Hmm.
survive and just, you know, raise your family and everything. What you do, you know, what you sell, I don't really care. A lot of people do. I just don't. I like to me, it's your choice. Like I'll love you if you love do hot dogs. I'll love you if you do fancy dishes. But I think when you get people that chase it just for the prime reason of income, like money, I think it tends to. I think today you can read through it more than you've ever had, and we see that on our show, and we have people on there, and we've had a couple that are trying to sell on our shows and sell their products and services, not as a restaurateur, but as product and services. And it tend to be very shallow. Like there's not a there's like there's no depth to it.
Hmm.
And I don't think I think today you can read through more of those. I don't think in the industry most people are doing this because it's going to make 'em money. If they do think that, then they learn fast. I think in the future you're going to have to really focus on there's so many things to focus on. But like, I would like to see every restaurateur have to do a business class before they take the keys of the restaurant. And it's not because I don't want them to have one. I'm just tired of the failure rate. I think it stinks.
I'm
I
right
think
there
it
with you.
yeah, I think it's wrong. I think we've accepted failure as a part of the norm in our industry, and I think that needs to be corrected. And I think what like you do, Chris, and what me and Dom do about getting out there and telling stories and creating content, we want to keep pushing until someone goes, "Oh, okay, yeah, I should probably do this or do that or learn more or take a class or a course." Or like just I think we stop and we think it's that easy that we don't have to teach ourselves or learn along the process
Mm.
that good people do it. It's not the case, and I'm just tired of the failure rate. I think it's wrong. I had a call today about it with another company and did an interview or like a presentation, and they're a financial company. And I said, I'm just tired. Folks like you should spend money to be able to put people through school or classes and take courses because we got to stop failing. I think we've learned enough of the failing, and we'll always fail. It's okay, but we got to stop allowing hardworking people to fail. Accept it. There you go. There
I
you go.
couldn't agree more. The thing is, as you were saying that, I was thinking to myself that you're correct to call out education as the big piece here. Because I think there's a misconception in our industry where putting a beer across a bar seems really easy, but the logistics to do it are very complex. And there's almost like we hide how difficult this industry is. People don't see it from the outside very well. And then they get in and they don't have the knowledge, and that leads to that failure rate you're talking about.
Yeah, I think I think I think at a time we had to almost romanticize it in a way to get people interested because people were looking at other opportunities that were out there when the bars were a little bit lower. But today, you can go start a restaurant tomorrow with a little bit of cash and go for it. But I run into too many times with restaurants I work with is they just don't have that business side of knowledge of what they need to do. And then when you give it to them or you provide those resources, the surprising part is 95% of them do not execute them. And that's what drives me crazy. You give them the keys and meet them another few months later, they never apply.
It's because you're changing it after their habits are already established. So that's where the ongoing education needs to happen. We're in the
Yes,
training
it does.
business, right? Under SafeCheck. And yeah, the one-time education that on the food safety side that meets the regulation, but it's not necessarily effective because it's not ongoing. So the ongoing part is the part that's missing in that chain. And I think the people that end up being successful are the ones that apply those lessons throughout.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just how much more can we throw at them and tell them that you don't know how to do your bloody food cost or you don't know how to do all your costs. I'm so tired of those messages from people
And we have to have them on though, because people,
still
for
don't
the
get it.
ones that, but the success is when one does and comes back and says, "Hey, thanks for introducing me to X," right?
Mhm.
Those are kind of the feel good stories for us because it changed how they do things and made their business profitable, or they stopped losing money like they were, or they
Yeah.
identified at least what they were losing.
Absolutely. But I'm right with you where that's one of the most frustrating things about whether it's just the podcasting and kind of education side of it or the consulting side of it. When people don't follow through and they don't get the results and then they go, well, this didn't work, always is kind of disappointing. But along those lines, as you were saying that, one of the things that occurred to me is if you think about any other industry, if you're an attorney, you have to go to so many classes every year. If you're a doctor, you have to go to so many classes. An accountant, insurance, banking, like every other industry in the world, there's some requirement that you actually learn. And we are one of the few industries where you don't know what you're doing? Cool, buy a bar. You you don't want to learn what you're doing? Cool, keep owning your business, right? And I'm not saying that there should be regulations or something there, Dom. I'm with you that government is generally not the answer to things. But at the same time, that also means we don't even have the resources half the time to be able to do.
But do you don't yeah, like you're talking financial resources because you're not being successful. Yeah, you're in this downward spiral. The successful restaurants, the successful bars, they go and educate themselves. They go find those resources for themselves. You see them at the trade shows. You see them wanting to learn. You see them attending the seminars. You at least see the attempt to moving forward, right? I think that, back to what we were saying earlier, the ones that are just doing the same thing over and over again and not seeing any success and then wondering why, we know why. It's because they're doing the same thing over and over again. So, the self-education or the drive for self-education is what needs to happen. We talk about that a lot on our show, is that, a lot of times we don't know. We didn't know that X thing was out there. What I do know is that the access to information's easier than ever in a big way, right? And the access to tech is bigger than ever and more affordable than ever on a lot of things, right? So, some of that low hanging fruit that can be changed and should be changed, restaurants and bars, they should be doing that right now, because those are some of the things can easily be changed. Now there's a lot harder ones. The population have money in their pockets to spend at your business. Is a bigger challenge, but that's where we got to get on government and like say, hey, get off people's backs, right? So that they can afford to go out and do things. Because when they afford to do things, that a bar business or a hospitality business is one of the best ways to move money in your economy, because it employs a lot of people. They have a lot of different suppliers that service them, so it makes a whole community work in a much better way when you have a thriving bar and restaurant businesses in your community. It's just, you see it, you feel it. You go to those cities where that's a big thing, and you immediately feel it. I'm in Cabo right now. There's a restaurant every 50 feet, and guess what? Every one of them is good. There's a ton of competition. There's lots of people, but every restaurant is good. And you wonder, well, how do they do that? How is every restaurant good? How are all the drinks so beautiful, so good? It's competition. It is. So that's, and these communities thrive. They survive on that tourism business. But we have Absolutely. That can happen in any city.
It really can. But I want to go back to something you said a second ago, because you were talking about the way the industry is changing with tech and different things. And I am fully on board with what you said, where you have to kind of start adopting this stuff soon, otherwise you're going to get left behind.
Yeah.
But what I find in our industry that worries me quite a bit is that a lot of folks don't really want tech, right? And there seems to be this argument going on right now that tech is going to get in the way of customer service, which I don't believe, but there's just so much resistance from so many different angles. So what's kind of your view on that? And how do we get past that? How do we go, yeah,
adapt
we know
or
you don't
die?
like tech, but use it.
Is that Tom?
Adapt or die, right? It's just, yeah, that's really the choices, right? Now, it doesn't have to get in the way of customer service. We talked to somebody the other day that says, that they bring a electronic menu and they have a paper menu. They didn't go fully electronic. Customer can pay directly on the iPad, or they can get a paper bill. They've left it totally up to the customer to pick what they want. They haven't forced anybody into anything. And the customer's happy because they've got choice. Oh, and those things are going to work depending on the business, right? In some places, the demographics will choose where you go. But I don't think tech is going to be in the way. The only way tech is going to be in the way is if the restaurant allows it to be in the way. That they can adopt, make all the system changes in the back of the house, so it doesn't affect the customer. There's no reason it has to affect. I think the limitations are people's imaginations. I really do. I think if you're going to put limits on something, it's because you put them there, right? So if you went out there and looked right now and they came to you and they said, hey, what's the best way to do my bar inventory? You'd probably have 7 or 8 different solutions for them, right?
Absolutely.
And not all of them are crazy big money either. But you probably also know that if they started doing it and did it on a regular basis, they could save $1,000 a week or something. I don't know what the number is, but maybe it's more than that, right? I don't know. But even at $500 a week, right? If you started saving $500 a week, $2,000 a month, that can add up to some real money.
and add up quick.
Yeah, I think also when you look at the tech space, it will be a balance. Like we're getting into understanding it, how it applies to our business and the balance between customer experience. I think we're still at the early stages of it. Surprisingly, tech's been around quite a while, but with AI pushing it more and all these different things that we can use with tech and the different areas that's getting into our business, I think sometimes we're just slow adopters as well within the industry. We're cautious. We got a lot of writing on our businesses that, if it is something that comes in, there is always something that's going to make our business better, no matter what area your restaurant or your bar. There's always someone coming in with something better. There's always that constant evolution of something new. And I think most restaurants are starting to understand that and starting to slowly adopt more and more. But it's a slow process because they can only adopt so much at once.
Hmm.
And it's just such a big thing for them to do that unless you have a team that is introducing your tech stack or more technology into your business. It's a slow burn for independent operators that are, they're serving and cooking at the same time or have very little staff. They don't have the time to do that because there is a time commitment to adopting tech.
Absolutely true. Along those lines, though, because I know I've looked a lot about tech in the last year or so and talked about it. I know you guys have as well. For those folks, because it is a slow adoption process, have you noticed any patterns of, here's what's usually good to start with if you're thinking about getting into tech? If you're that person listening right now and going, well, I still have a POS system and that's it.
I think scheduling and inventory is probably the first ones that they should go after. Inventory only because it can have a massive impact. Well, probably because most people aren't doing it. That's probably the reason, right? So if they started with that, and the ones that are gonna allow you to save a little bit of time, even if it's an hour or two a week, to put back into improving the customer experience, those are going to have the biggest impact, I think, because if you can save an hour, I think Jay spoke about this last week. If you can save an hour to put that hour towards auditing your business, like really, sort of without all the shackles that you put on yourself and the sort of the blinders as to what's really happening. If you spend that time to really take a deep dive into what's going on to your business, that's going to allow you to make better decisions. And those things will end up feeding off themselves, right? So if I can save an hour on inventory, if I can save an hour on scheduling, I've got 2 hours a week. You're telling people that they need to adopt all these things right away when, they already feel like they've got no time is hard. I think that's a hard part to ask. Jay?
I couldn't agree more. Those are all very true points. But we've been talking. This time is going really quick. So I want to make sure we get in a little bit of time here before I let you guys go to talk about what y'all are doing right now. Because I know you're working with the Next Expo. We've talked a bit about education. From what I gather, it's a great place to go and learn things. So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about the Next Expo.
Next Expo was started really because to sort of bring the learning closer to where people are at. We have a pretty big show in Canada called the Restaurants Canada Show that the Canadian Food Safety, my company, we participate in for probably going on 10 years now. That's kind of the national restaurant show in Canada. That'd be equivalent to the National Restaurant Association show in Chicago. But it's in Southern Ontario. People are traveling less. So we wanted to bring that experience to Western Canada, because we know that people don't travel to Toronto, much like a lot of people don't travel to the Chicago show. And travel in Canada is tougher, harder, right? It's more expensive. So, and then we wanted to have the same caliber of guests and experiences and competitions as some of those events that we've been to. And, from what people are telling us, we're pretty humble guys, me and Kendricks. We delivered. We're really, really humbled by the amount of exhibitors that came and the amount of attendees. My co-founder is a genius. I'd say that. He comes from the comic and entertainment world, and he's done expos like that. So he's a big part of the success in what that looked like. And then, we had Canada's restaurant guy. He was our official, then unofficial. Then official. What's
Then
up with these?
official. I just got official the other day.
Well, it's unofficial again because you keep talking about spray tanning. So he's got these crazy marketing ideas. So that's what you get.
Brilliant.
When you talk to.
They're not crazy. They're brilliant. They're
So
brilliant.
we're trying to bring that that experience, the whole overall experience of going to a trade show. I think we had 105 speakers over 2 days. Like, we had a lot of people.
Wow.
We had a crazy amount of programming going on, and that was by design to have, some of the sessions were well attended, some didn't have any, but the idea is that there's something there for everybody, and you don't have to go far to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And then same on the competition side, we had some really cool competitions, and then we had even what we call the innovation lab, where we had a couple of stations on the show floor where chefs could just, they booked their time, we booked them in, but they were demonstrating for themselves. It wasn't a competition. They just got to showcase what they did. So that was really cool, and that was well received as well. So yeah, we're really excited about that. Besides, like I said, we offer food handler training, amongst other things, as well as other business skills. So the number one course that we sell, which is primarily to the hospitality industry, after food safety, is customer service, which is interesting to me.
That is.
So, Chris, you're invited, September 13th, 14th, Calgary.
I don't know that I've ever been to Calgary, so this might be
You
the
should come.
excuse. I need to check it out.
Yeah, plus
Pretty
your
cool.
invitation.
It's a pretty cool place.
Yeah. And Jay, before we go, tell us a little bit about what you're doing at Canada's Restaurant.
Well, we started Ashton Media back in December. We've been working on it for a while, but we officially kind of came out with it. And then we have a director of client services, Sal, that's doing a lot of the amazing stuff right now on booking guests, getting sponsorship, making partnerships with a lot of companies out there. It's just incredible what's happened in a short period of time. So that we've been focusing on our podcast a lot. We do a lot of shows and a lot of news articles. I write for a hospitality article in New York every week, which is due today, reminding me. And then we do, I think we got about 5 of our own. We reach a lot of people. We do a lot of cool stuff. It's been a blast. It's been an absolute blast.
Awesome. So, because I know people are listening and they're going, hey, Jay and Dom are cool dudes. I want to connect with them. I want to learn more about the next expo. I want to learn more about what's going on with restaurants in Canada. How do people get in touch with you guys?
You call Dom at 8 o'clock at night. I'll give you a phone number. Here's his phone number. No. Right, Dom?
For me, it'd be Domenic at nextfoodexpo.com, or I'm on LinkedIn. I think Canada's Restaurants guys on LinkedIn. The Ashton Media site is close to being launched, so we'll have a lot of stuff there at Ashton Media. Canada's Restaurant guys on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or everywhere else. I think, Shay. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, it's a test. Let's see what he says.
What we will do is we will link all that down in the show notes so that everybody can just scroll down, get a hold of you guys, or at least find your LinkedIns and websites and whatnot, and then bother you.
You're going to come on our show.
Yeah. And it'll be about 2 weeks from now.
Cool.
So, well, let me let you guys go. It's been great having both of you on the show. Make sure, if you're listening, go check out the show notes. Find Jay, find Dom, and check out their episodes of the Late Night Restaurant Podcast, especially in about 2 weeks when I'm going to be on there with them, and you'll be able to see a whole different level of conversation between us, I am sure. So, guys, again, just thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Chris. Take care.
Thanks so much, Chris.
That about wraps it up for today. If you enjoyed today's insights, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a review. If you are ready to take your bar to the next level, schedule a strategy session with me by clicking the link in the show notes below. Until next time, have a great day, and we will talk again later.